Hey everyone, I'm Robyn Moreno from Latina, and I'm so excited because I am here today with one of my heroes, Cecile Richards, who is the former head of Planned Parenthood.
Still a head, but soon to be moving aside.
Yes. That's right, and the author of a new book that's out today, so you have to go pick it up at Amazon and everywhere, called Make Trouble. Standing up, speaking out, and finding the courage to lead. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I read the book. I literally ordered it last night. I was just waiting for it. It came in this morning, and I think I read it literally like almost the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
Well, one, it's an amazing read, but you're such an amazing woman, and I love the title. So where does Make Trouble come from?
So, I grew up in Texas, as you know, I know you're a Texan too, and I think my parents were just troublemakers from the beginning, and so we were raised in Dallas, and they were into everything: the farm workers movement, the women's movement, the civil rights movement, and so it just became kind of a family trait. And what else was I going to do, as a kid? So it was fun, actually.
But you talk about in the book even about your mom. So her mom, if for any of you guys don't know, you need to go to Google right now. So Ann Richards was the first. There was another There was another
woman governor, who was actually her husband, because her husband was put in the penitentiary. So Ma Ferguson, because Paul Ferguson went to jail. But Mom was the first woman elected in her own right.
Which I actually remember, and that was amazing. And she was like a big hellraiser. But you talk about this, and I want to talk about this, how she sort of came into her own. She sort of grew into her own feminism. Can we talk about that? Because I feel like a lot of women, as of late, have discovered their own, they're finding their voices right now, right?
I totally agree. And I think to me, that's one of the reasons I want to tell my story and tell Mom's story, because I think some folks think, well, if I didn't start when I was 18 and, run for office and do all these things, I can't. But we're seeing, Mom was a housewife. She raised 4 kids in Dallas until she finally kind of got free and got to do her own thing and then ran for office. And what I've been seeing this last year is so many women, running for office, starting organizations, doing things, bringing their kids along. And in fact, one of the things I'm proudest of is that there are 2 Latinas that are going to come to Congress from Texas this year.
Yes,
which
we've written about them.
Historic.
Yeah.
Historic. So yes, I think the ground is shifting for women in this country, and I hope that this book gives people both the courage to do something different and maybe some inspiration, with a little humor.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. So let's talk about you, because you obviously grew up in this activism family, and you guys were always protesting, and I remember, I love this story. She writes this amazing story. Her mom, she was a housewife, and she went to go get the lettuce, and she's like, if that's not from the United Farm Workers, we're not buying that lettuce. But being at the head of Planned Parenthood, that's a very specific role, because that's a tough job. That's a very polarizing job.
It's funny. People think of it as polarizing because people do have strong feelings about reproductive health care, but actually Planned Parenthood is one of the most popular organizations in the country because so many women get their health care there.
Yeah.
Right. I did when I was in college.
We did too.
Right.
That's where we get our birth control pills.
It's interesting. Fox News just did a poll, and they're not exactly our biggest fans, and they had to report out that their national poll showed that Planned Parenthood was the most popular organization in the country. So I think sometimes people assume it's more controversial than it is. The fact is 1 in 5 women have been to Planned Parenthood for health care. It doesn't mean you don't have to take on, though, to be the head of Planned Parenthood, you definitely have to stand your ground and really stand up for the women who we serve.
So you write this one, I feel like it was a riveting scene in the book where you had to go testify, was it in front of Congress?
Yes.
And it was because all of these really completely fabricated fake news doctored videos had come out that were really attacking Planned Parenthood. Right. And so you had to go, and at a cost, this congressional hearing was more than Enron scandal or the financial collapse, but whatever. So you had to go, and it's one of those I don't know, Mrs. Smith goes to Washington kind of moments, because you're sitting there by yourself.
Oh yes.
Against this committee
with a whole bunch of men whose entire purpose was not to actually have a hearing, as in terms of back and forth, and we're just investigating. It was to try to embarrass me and humiliate Planned Parenthood. So yeah, it was definitely it was an interesting experience, but I got through it.
You did but you got through it with a major grace. But how did that feel being there? Because as a woman, I feel there's so many things you can't do. You want to be yell, but then you'll be maybe the hysterical woman. You know what I mean?
You
it's
can't
so
take the
hard.
bait. I learned so much from that hearing. It was 5 plus hours, and I had learned like most women,
Yeah.
of course, I wanted to be totally prepared. I knew all the facts, I was ready to go. I pasted a picture of my children into the notebook with all my information, so if I needed like encouragement. And what I learned in that hearing were two things. Well, one was that if the men just wanted to get in a fight, I mean, they were just poking their finger at me and telling me this and that. And if you wouldn't take the bait, then they even just got angrier. And all of it was out on television. And so I feel like in a way, it gave us the chance to show the great work that we do. And it also gave a chance for a lot of people to see who was in Congress. And it was really alarming. But my favorite thing, and maybe other mothers can relate to this, I have 3 kids, and one of them, Daniel, is always has the perfect line. But in the middle of the hearing, he texted me and said, "Mom, I'm watching you on TV. I'm so proud of you. You're doing great. I think raising me all those years really helped you prepare for today." So there is something about being a mother that helps you through these situations.
And so let's talk about that, because you learned so much from your mom.
Definitely.
Clearly, right? And
Definitely.
so, I mean, it's hard to say, because I'm sure she gave you, even just by example,
Right.
so many pieces of advice, but I mean,
Right.
what do you think you got from her the most?
Well, one thing that isn't said too much about my mother is, she was a survivor. She was divorced.
Yeah.
She was a recovering alcoholic. She was on her own. And I think one of the things I learned from Mom is, really you can fail and learn from it and just keep going. She was a big believer in don't look back. You only look forward. And even when she lost her race for governor, her re-election, which was really tough, she never looked back. And so I think that's one of the things that women, we're so worried about making a mistake or having someone not like us or think that we did something wrong. I think sometimes we don't take the chances that we should. And I just remember when I was going to interview for this job, I almost didn't go because I was like, well, Mom, I'm not qualified for that job. I've never run anything that big. And she was, she just gave me this, Ann Richards look, and it was like, you've got to try this. The only regrets you have are things you didn't ever really try and put yourself out for. And so I think that, to me, that's probably the biggest lesson from Ann Richards. And she would say that to every single woman today, is just go for it.
Well, you've gone for it, and and you're great. It's been so amazing to watch you and to be inspired by you. You know what I mean? But I want to talk about your kids. So,
Okay, I love talking about my kids.
Well, I mean, I read in the book, so you're old, about kind of going for it, right? And how even now young women just don't have that same sense of entitlement that I think guys do. Like, I think there's like a study that guys will just be like, yeah, I could do that.
Absolutely.
And girls, like, even though she knows everything, is like, I don't know if I'm qualified.
Right.
Do you find that in your own daughters?
Well, it's funny, my daughter Lily, who now works for Senator Kamala Harris, a new senator from California, and even after Lily got out of college, I mean, she's always been, A student, she worked real hard, but she would be amazed that some of her male colleagues, graduates, were ready to go for these big jobs, and she's like, well, they're not qualified for that. And I said, I know, but that's never held them back. And I do think it's just a lesson for women. We just have to, as I say, start before you're ready. Don't wait until you've got, the perfect degree, the perfect situation, your kids are the right age, all the reasons why we hold ourselves back. So I think Lily and Hannah, my other daughter, have really just jumped in, and as has my son Daniel. But it's something that I think we have, as women and as mothers, we really have to encourage young women to do whatever it is they feel like doing, and know that it's going to be okay even if it doesn't work out.
So it's interesting because it's my perception, right? So I grew up in Texas, and so we've always loved Ann Richards, and there's always been, I feel like, a connection with, the Hispanic community in your family. I'm being honest. Like, I feel like there's something like, I'm like, she's Latina, even though she totally has white hair and blue eyes. There's something about this woman that I love. It's interesting. I get to interview Dolores Huerta.
Oh my gosh, my heroine.
Yes, my heroine.
Yes.
And she talks a lot about allyship with, other women of color and just white women, frankly, right?
Right.
And just like, say, Gloria Steinem or someone that maybe has more access, how they helped each other. You've always been a big supporter of Hispanic women working, at different labor unions.
Right.
Can you speak to the allyship and the importance that we need together as women to bring each other forward?
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you mentioned Dolores, because I think she's a perfect example of what a iconic woman who really just and has never stopped, just keeps keeps going. Well, growing up in Texas, absolutely, we spent a lot of time in the Rio Grande border, and my dad actually was represented a lot of folks down there as a lawyer in so many civil rights battles. In fact, I remember my very first dance was I was in grade school, and we were in Dallas, and the farm workers were kicking off their big march to Austin. At that point, I think the big fight was over getting a farm workers minimum wage. So my parents threw me and my brother in the back of the station wagon, which is the way it worked in those days, and we drove hours and hours and hours down there to a VFW hall where they were kicking off the march. And I still remember it, even though I was probably 7, and it was like a conjunto band, and there were like Christmas lights and everything, and a dusty sawdust floor, and folks doing the 2-step around, and it was this enormous celebration, to kick off the march. And I remember turning to my dad and I said, this is my first dance. And what a perfect first dance for any young girl to have. But that community and the work of the farm workers was really integral to my upbringing. And when I got out of college, I went back to the border to organize garment workers, who many of them Latinas were working just for the minimum wage. And a lot of my life has been spent in that part of Texas. And years later, I actually moved to Los Angeles and worked for organizing the folks that cleaned downtown office buildings. We were almost exclusively Latino from Central America. Yeah. Some of the most incredibly brave people I've ever met. And I think of them, and I think of those women in the garment factories when we do this work at Planned Parenthood. It's the same people that we serve.
Yeah, it's so Latinas we make less like than everybody in the world. Basically,
that's right.
We make 54 cents to the dollar. A white man makes it, and it's something that we ask ourselves all the time in the community, like what can we be doing? Should we be asking more? But do you have any advice, or have you seen, do you have any, advice for women that maybe should be asking for a raise or have more rights than maybe they think that they do?
Well, I think it's, of course, always great for women to advocate for themselves, but I think more importantly, it's on the rest of us to advocate for women who aren't making, equal pay. You always need to encourage young women, young Latinas, to speak up for themselves and to take new opportunities, but really the obligation is on the rest of us, too, to open those doors. And what I have found at Planned Parenthood, either for our patients or for young women who come to work at Planned Parenthood, that just giving Latinas a chance, they're ready to go. They are so ready to go. And anyway, I think that's the work I believe we all have to do now. And one of the things that we've done this last year at Planned Parenthood, especially as so many rights are under attack for so many people, is make it very clear that we don't only stand for Planned Parenthood, we stand for the opportunities of all the people who come to us for health care or who don't have health care. And that includes immigrants, that includes Latinas that are here, that are looking to finish school, it includes dreamers, you name it. And that it's really important to me that we do our part to try to level the playing field as well. If I could, I'd love to brag about one young woman.
Yeah, please.
I was over this last year, as we've been fighting for access to health care, I was in Arizona, and finally the senator there had decided to have a town hall meeting. He had been avoiding doing it during the healthcare fight, the Planned Parenthood fight, but he held one in Mesa, Arizona. And so I went to meet with the organizers beforehand, and they were all Latinas, they were making their signs and getting their shirts, and they were ready to go. But there was one young woman that was kind of holding back, and she said, I'm not going to dress in Planned Parenthood pink because I'm hoping to ask a question at the microphone. And so I said, we send them on their way. I flew back to New York, and then that night I get a stream from someone said, "You've got to see this." And it is this young woman, Deja Fox, a Latina, 16 years old,
oh my gosh,
stands up at a town hall meeting in front of hundreds of strangers and basically speaks truth to power to her United States Senator, saying, why should he deny her right to get family planning services, birth control services, so that she can finish high school and live out the American dream. And the place exploded. There were everyone stood up, standing ovation. And Deja went on to not only become a national sensation, get sex education in her school, but she's going now to college this fall, the first in her family. So that to me is just a lesson in just open a door and Latinas are ready to run right in.
Yeah, no, we're ready. We're ready.
Ready to go.
So tell me, so I'm going to switch gears now and talk about, so you're leaving Planned Parenthood.
No.
How did you know it was time to go? Because a lot of times, we talk to young women, all kinds of women at different ages of their life, and we talk about transitions a lot because people are, how do you know when it's time to go for your dream job or move on to something else or take care of your family? So how did you know it was time to go?
Well, I've been doing this 12 years,
Okay.
which has been, it's been the job of a lifetime, incredible job. And the organization is incredibly strong right now. We have more supporters than we've ever had. I mean, we've just beat back this administration on defunding. I also think, though, one of the important things about being a leader, and particularly in a movement, is recognizing when it's time for you to move aside and make room for someone else. And so I hope that that is what I'm trying to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk a bit. And there's so many young people that we've invested in, women who are really coming up through the ranks, leading organizations, and I hope that I'm making room for one of them to have this job, which I think is actually the most extraordinary job in the progressive movement. 2.5 million people get healthcare from Planned Parenthood every single year. It's such an important organization. And I'm ready to be I will always be a supporter, and I'll be right on the sidelines cheering the next president on.
But you're not done with your leadership. I mean, you must be, what's next for you?
I don't know what's next, but I know that right now I'm very focused on making sure that women are registered to vote, have the opportunity to vote, and that they do go vote in November, because I think women really have the opportunity to change the direction of this country for good, and finally get around to working on some of these issues that we wish government would work on, like equal pay for equal work, or affordable health care, affordable child care, so we can raise our families and have a job, great public education. So that's what I really want to focus on, and then we'll see what happens in November, and I hope that we can begin to make progress again.
So part of your book, or maybe most of it, it's about leadership. I mean, it's your story, right? But I feel like the overarching theme is about how to be a leader, how to be a female leader. And what defines leadership to you? Because I feel like leadership is so different between men and women. And I feel like a lot of times, we have to own our unique way to be a leader. So what's your leadership style?
Well, I've had the good fortune of seeing so many women who I've worked for women who are leaders. Obviously, my mother, Ann Richards, getting to be around her, working for Nancy Pelosi, seeing women who've gone to Congress. I think the really important characteristic of a leader is the ability to listen to other people. I mean, I think sometimes some leaders think that the goal is just to convince everybody that you're right. I think it's more important to actually understand where people are coming from. And my mother used to always say, people don't ever do things for your reasons. They do things for their own reasons. And so if you really understand what it is people want, what they want from Planned Parenthood, what they want from government, that's when you can actually be an effective leader. There's a great, farm workers organizer, Marshall Gans, who taught me years and years ago. He said something which always stuck with me, which is a leader is someone who has followers. And I think you have followers when people actually believe that you hear them and you're listening to them. I think we need to do a lot more listening in this country, creating empathy.
When I talked to Dolores Bertha, I asked her, because she's 87 years old. So,
which you would never know
I know.
if you met her. She's just
amazing.
On
so
fire.
Clearly, we have a lot of work ahead of us. So
Yes.
we're not anywhere near retiring.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
That's right. Yeah, we've got a lot left to do.
But I was like, what gives you your drive? And she said, to me, organizing is like magic. She's like being able to go into a community and sort of, inspire people and then see them transform into leaders. It's like alchemy. And so what do you think has been your magic?
Well, I think actually, just to tee off of what Dolores said, for me, what's fueled this last 12 years at Planned Parenthood are the people that I've met. And some of them I met when they were in high school. And I remember my first month on the job, meeting these teenagers in Kalamazoo, Michigan, who were basically advocating for sex education in their schools, and they were really a resource to their fellow students. And I met them and I thought, well, you may be educators, but really you're leaders. I mean, you are amazing. And so we started essentially funding young people to come to Congress, learn how to lobby, learn how to do public speaking, meet each other. And 12 years later, one of the young women I met, Lindsay Swisher in Kalamazoo, just came back to visit me in Washington at the office. She's now, of course, graduating from high school, went to college, went into the Peace Corps, and is now getting her master's and is basically a public health advocate. And that to me is what, yes, is exciting, is to see the trajectory and the difference that you can make sometimes by just giving someone that opportunity to live out their dreams and to think about their life as this incredible gift and make the most of it. That to me, that's what it's all about.
So why did you decide to do your book? Because it's really personal. Like it's, it can be, that's sort of raw, right? Like opening up yourself in this way to talk about, your husband who's the star. No, he's amazing. He's a very supportive husband.
Yeah. And
your kids. But why did you feel compelled to write this book right now?
I think after the election, so many people, every day, someone would stop me on the street and say, "Aren't you that lady from Planned Parenthood?" Or just like, what should I do? What can I do? And I think there was a feeling of desperation at that point where people thought, how can I make this better? And I thought, well, rather than trying to talk to everybody on the subway, I'll just write a book, because I do think that people just want encouragement. They want to know that they can do something more than what they're doing and that they can make a difference. And to me, that is the thing that is, I think everyone thought there was this one certain thing, if I told them to do that, then somehow it would all be better. And the truth is, you never know. But I think it is the accumulation of everyone's actions, of standing up for Planned Parenthood, standing up for dreamers, standing up for immigrants, standing up for the LGBTQ community. All of those things, you never know what one action actually is going to propel us forward, but that is how change happens. And so I'm hoping that this book is, again, a little peek behind the scenes of getting to grow up with Cecile Richards, testifying before Congress, raising activist kids, but also an inspiration for folks who say, I think I can do just something a little bit more than what I'm doing now.
That's amazing. That was amazing. Well, thank you so much.
It's such a thrill to see you. And so, we'll have to keep visiting. Thanks for what you're doing at Latina. This is so great.
No, it's important. It's what we do is we tell the stories that need to be told, that aren't being told about Latinas, because there's a narrative. So it's like you don't own your story. Someone is holding it. But we're very much about leaders, and so I think this is very inspiring. And I think just taking that bravery and just having the courage to stand up like you've done, I think anyone can do that.
Anyone can, and so many women are. Yeah. And I think that's I think that is the theme for now, is that being taking on a little bit more than what you're doing, because not only is important, it actually can be really joyful and bring you in touch with the most amazing people like Dolores Huerta. It's incredible.
Well, thank you so much. So where can people buy your book, because it's out today?
It's out today. You can buy it on Amazon. You could buy it, I think at a lot of bookstores, but ordering it online, very simple. We'll ship it to you. Yeah, that would be great.
Do you have a website? Can people go to your website?
Yeah, Cecile Richards, CecileRichardsBook.com. I should know that.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Okay, good to see you. All right.